Josiah?
Yes.
Here is the scenario. In the movie In Time, essentially when you're born, you have this clock on your wrist in nice big bright green letters. And you have 1 year when you're born. Now, that clock doesn't actually start counting down until you turn 25 years old. Then that clock starts counting down, essentially giving you 1 more year to live. However, you can get more time by doing a job, getting a loan, or having your parents give you some of their time. Essentially, all the currency in the world has just been transferred into amount of time to live. And in this world, if you become poor, well, you're dead. That's essentially what happens. The moment you become broke, you just die. You get a small heart attack and you just drop down to the ground.
Cool.
So the movie was not amazing. It wasn't the best movie ever. However, the concept itself is really interesting. So let's discuss more about it. All right, guys? Okay. So, in this world, what do you guys think will be the biggest problem when it comes to time as currency?
They get it at 25, right?
Yes, it starts at 25.
How do they pay for anything until then?
That's a good point.
Is that in the movie at all, or like?
I'm gonna guess that the parents have to pay for everything for this child.
People have up until they're 25 to figure out what they can do with that year of time. 25 years is a lot of time. It's a lot of time to goof around. It's a lot of time to learn stuff. Just like nowadays, I mean, you can really do whatever you want with your time. And so you've got 18 years to go to school, figure it out what you might like to do, and then until you're 25 you can go to college, or you can just party for a couple years, or you can or if you really want to, you can go until 25 and then you could just blow all your hours and die. Or you can go until you're 25 and then the second you turn 25 you start saving, you start like tossing some hours into the stocks, you start doing other things. So you're
saying you give people ample enough time to plan.
Yeah.
And if they just haven't planned accordingly, that is in a smart way, then they're off. They're dead. Do you think that will create a better society?
That's a harder question.
Yeah.
That's definitely it.
I think if this was really in place, you make a very good point. People would get very smart and very intelligent by the time they're 25 to figure out what they want to do and how they want to earn their money.
Yeah,
that would be. I think people would work very hard for that.
They have to work. They physically cannot afford to not work because they will die.
It seems like a really shitty society, to be honest.
Wouldn't that be positive though? If you have a lot of people working, every person that is alive is contributing somehow to the overall economy. Would that be beneficial if there is like no dead waste of no one doing anything, no homeless essentially?
I feel like people would have an ethical issue with that. Like, oh, the government is just going to let the people who can't afford or who physically cannot work just let their time run out and let them die, and we'll clean it up after they're gone. It seems a little inhumane.
I mean, I guess what we're talking about right now is the transition between what we know as our monetary system to a system based on time. There would be a gradual dying off of people who physically and mentally are not capable of working.
Yeah. So then the focus of the society becomes, what can you as the individual do to help us? And if it's not enough, you're gone.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's?
It's very.
Do you think that's good? Do you think that's? Fair?
I mean, it's very. It's essentially putting natural selection into a civilized society.
I was gonna argue, but I think you're right. Is it Darwinism? But I mean, I guess if you can't work, somebody else is gonna work.
Yeah.
So.
And eventually, people would then like the work ethic would just will skyrocket. Like the amount of hours someone would be willing to, and the amount of work someone would be willing to do would be crazy.
But that's the thing. I feel like it'd have the opposite effect. You also have to consider that it might actually decrease morale. If people are only working day in and day out so they can maintain a shitty life that they are living, it would be easier to just take the last of the time that you have and just enjoy it for the little bit and then die.
That's a good point.
As opposed to continuously working in this shitty environment that I cannot move up the ladder in.
Yeah.
Because I am not one of the chosen few that got to be at the top. Again, like it's introducing Darwinism into a civilized society, but then it's getting like muddled by bureaucracy and getting muddled by like unfair laws that put other people at an advantage over other people.
You know how there's like different generations of people now, like millennials and baby boomers and whatever. I feel like in that society, at some point you would hit this generation of people that would just age to 25 and a week and then die. Because they'd get to age 25 and just be like, fuck it, and blow all of their time on as much stuff as they could and just drop.
And
because
every like you're dumb for doing
yeah,
that. But I mean,
but are they? Like you're working, you're 200 years old and you've been working every single day since you started. I may die in a week, but at least I don't have to do anything.
At least that week would be more worthwhile than living a shitty job.
Yeah,
working for 200 years.
Yeah, and from there it's just a perspective. Are you more of the I'm just going to work for an eternity, or are you more of I only have a week to live, but I'm going to enjoy it?
Because if time is the only form of currency, if that's the only standard monetary unit that the world uses, we need to use that to make everything. That means infrastructure. That means healthcare. That means like any.
That would be kind of ironic.
Having to pay your life in order to.
Right?
To live longer?
Exactly.
You're literally giving hours or years of your life just to live.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's kind of a paradox.
Exactly.
Again,
and then what happens when you have people who are disabled and can't enter the workforce? Well, they can't earn time, so then you have a gradual dying off of like people who can't work. It's very dystopian, just the entire environment, because it's like, oh, well, if you're not working, you're not living.
What about thieves? What about people stealing time? I mean,
mug someone for your time. Give me your arm.
Give me your life.
Yeah, so essentially how you give other people time is you lock wrists, and then essentially, like, whoever wrist is on top, they're like giving money, and then once they flip it over, it's the other way around. Someone could just break into someone's home while they're sleeping and then just suck all their time out.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, does it have to be consensual? Like, to take time from somebody else?
In the movie, it doesn't have to be consensual at all. It's literally the physical, whoever's wrist is on top versus whoever's wrist is on the bottom.
Honestly,
so
I would just
flawed.
honestly, if someone was pointing a gun at me and said, "Give me all of your time," it would be like, just shoot me. Like, I don't even want you to have my time. Just kill me.
I mean, wouldn't that just like kind of counter mugging? Like, what are you gonna do? Take my time? Shoot me?
Exactly.
It's gonna be gone anyway. You're not gonna get it.
Since time is currency, it would be so precious.
Yes.
Because you can't get it back, that it would be like there wouldn't be any incentive to try and mug people. Like, if you tried to steal it, they would rather, I would imagine, of the vast majority of people would rather die than have their time stolen from them.
Honestly, yeah, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody came up and was like, I'm gonna take the 5 years you have left, like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. I'm going to kill you before you have a chance to take that time from me.
Gotcha. So you're saying that people that are getting mugged have a higher chance of fighting back in any way, shape, or form?
I imagine so. Like, much like a cornered animal, very fight or flight.
Because in today's society, if someone asks for your wallet and your phone, you can give them all of your money and your phone and everything, and you'd still be okay. You still have your health at least.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in this world, your
currency
health
is your health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They'll either shoot you or you can watch them drain the life from your very eyes. I'd rather just get shot.
Well, let's go to the opposite spectrum. You're extremely wealthy. You have all of the time in the world. What do you think it would be like to basically never die, to never grow old? Like, how do you think what would that play on a person's mind?
I'd probably think they were untouchable. For the most part. Like, even though it doesn't necessarily mean you're invincible, they could live forever if they weren't careful. And I'd imagine that those people would probably be targets for more, like, higher operation...
Well,
like
imagine...
kidnappings.
It is a very top-down system. It is a very... in a system where time is currency, the rich and powerful remain rich and powerful indefinitely.
Exactly.
There's no real way to usurp somebody from the position they're in once they've accumulated a whole lot of time.
Since they're living for a very, very long time, for thousands of years on end, why should the rich have children? Why would someone who's rich and powerful, that is going to stay rich and powerful for a very long time, why would they have kids?
If you have a kid, does it, like, take off your life?
That's a good question. Like, does it take 25 years off your life when you have a kid? And
Boop!
yeah, and then, I mean, that's kind of a good question. That's a good question. This actually got me to go into a dark area, because essentially when you have a baby, you get a free year. What's to say there isn't this group of people that decide to have as many babies as possible and then steal
keep
their
stealing the time.
their 1 year?
That was
It takes about 9 months to birth them, so you get about 3 months per baby. You just make a lot of babies. Like,
just black market time. Sounds like there's all kinds of ethical issues with that. Like,
Exactly.
because the thing is, the child's only purpose is being born so that you can take the year from it to supply the economy. But
I don't think that would happen actually to keep the economy alive. I think people would do this illegally
Right.
to keep themselves alive.
Right, but that's the thing. Like, even the black market is still a part of the economy. It is still a functioning part of the economy, and the black market would be the only, like,
Yeah.
it would either have to be legal to do this, like there would have to be birthing centers where you're creating
Jesus
a
Christ.
ton of
Oh,
to make
Jesus.
all of this time. Like, either the government would have to do this, or it would have to be done under the table. One way or another, like, you're still going to have to generate all of this time and make in order to make enough currency to supply like metropolises of people.
That's just assuming that
Yeah.
there's
It's just-
no guy sitting there going plus 20 million years to the economy.
Yeah,
that's
assuming there's not like some sort of stimulus package being tossed into the economy.
Right.
Well, I was thinking if there was one way to make pyramid schemes more scummy, it would be taking time from someone else to feed up to the top, and that got me thinking on the train of thought of being a cult leader in a world where you can just ask your followers to give you time. You
Oh
can
my
quite literally
God.
become a messiah of your purpose
Yeah.
at that point in time. You can quite literally become an immortal by
Jesus Christ.
asking for yeah.
I am-
my thoughts exactly.
I am the
Wow.
second coming of Jesus Christ. I will live for the rest of eternity and tell you all of my teachings. Donate your time to me.
See, there
I
would-
will now live forever and
Wow.
teach you my teachings.
There would be people
That'd be-
convincing everyone, just please keep me alive because I have like this valuable thing.
yeah.
And then that would like be like, what if someone was like the best at something, like the best at
everything.
basketball, right? He would stay alive for quite a bit. But what if someone got better than him at basketball?
He would have to get better at basketball.
He would have to get
there,
better at
there
basketball,
would be a
or-
lot fiercer competition for things that are in the limelight. Like, you'd have to. I was thinking about that. I was thinking artists or sports stars. Like, they would have to. They could probably live forever, and they could continuously keep doing the thing that they do.
and get better at what they're doing because
Yeah.
they're living for so long. And then for the rich people, they end up paying so much time for basic things like a steak dinner. They pay like maybe 50 years for a steak dinner. I could hunt down a deer, make the spices, and create that steak dinner in less time than it takes to give away 50 years. Do you think there'd be like a huge society where they would like, instead of paying for their goods, they would just to them it's less time to just do the goods themselves, to hunt down the animals and kill them, to actually put effort into repairing their vehicles instead of paying a mechanic? At some point, do you think the time it takes to do these things would be less if they just did it themselves?
Well, maybe that's the whole point of the movie. But I mean, in a society like that, eventually, if they progress that way, it would become a utopia. Everybody would just work for everything that they get themselves.
Right. No. I mean, again, the film was probably created with like a consumer's mind, with a consumer's mentality in mind. It was
Yeah.
less about like the actual like skilled workforce. I don't know. There's so many problems that come about.
I see why it was a bad movie.
Yeah, that come about just from like the process of using somebody's time
Yeah.
as currency. Like it's hard, and if we're still on the subject of artificially creating time, how do businesses generate capital? Where does that time come from? I mean, yes, clearly they're taking it from other people, but then they have to distribute it to everybody. And again, there has to be a source. Like, there has to be a source that you can invest a certain amount of money in to get your business up and running, to make the services that people are going to buy from you, so you can get revenue, so you can pay your workers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there has to be an origin, and what I'm having trouble figuring out is, where's the origin? Where do we start talking about, oh, let's start using our actual life force to pay for things?
I really like the idea of like this whole group of like this whole culture of people that go out and hunt their food like themselves. They're like, no,
Just go back to a hunter-gatherer society.
Exactly. That would be kind of interesting.
But then what? If we go back to a hunter-gatherer society where everyone's like making and producing everything, these people will only live to be like 26 years old at most.
That's
Exactly.
They will all die very, very early on. Again, like I feel like this is way more dystopian than we gave it credit for. I feel
Maybe they weren't humans at all. Maybe they were robots, and the timer was the battery.
Give me more juice, man.
You know what?
I need more watts.
That makes more sense.
That makes more sense than the actual film itself.
When people died in the movie, did you see people die in the movie? Like, aside from getting
They
shot?
literally do this little heart attack and they go, ugh, and they fall over.
And they just died? No, fucking robots.
So,
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to end it there. That
Yeah.
was a lot of different things to talk
There's
about.
a lot to
It's
talk
a really
about with this
ethical
one.
gray area, but
Exactly.
the movie was bad. That's all I know.
I think
Yeah,
we can
the
all.
movie-
I think we can all agree that the movie did not think that
We
hard
talked about more
this.
interesting things that the movie didn't really touch on, so
Yeah.
I think we did a success there. So,
Okay.
all right, guys, thank you guys for joining us.
No problem.
See you guys next time.
Great.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.